Welcome to the Training Partners Podcast. We have a special co-host today. I'm Chris, if you didn't know that. You should know that. We have Hughston Armstrong with us today. He's been here at Charlotte Strength since the beginning.
Yep.
Kind of call you our Swiss Army knife because you have a lot of skills. But today we're going to kind of lean into recovery. You have some background there, so we want to dive into your knowledge there. So if you don't mind, Hughston, give us a background on who you are and, focus on your stretch lab and acupuncture and all that good stuff.
Yeah, certainly. So I did, when I first moved to Charlotte, I worked with Stretch Lab. That was in 2019. And I worked my way up to what they call their master flexologists. So I was the one who trained the people to do what we did in studio.
Okay.
And I did that on like a regional level. And then I would also present on topics of fitness, recovery on a national level. So if we'd have flexologists, master flexologists, and like peers along those lines, we'd jump on a call and we'd have a topic that we'd have to present on. And so I did a few of those, and that was my that was all of the work that I did with Stretch Lab. And then there was kind of a crossover because this started in 2020 and I was there with them until 2022. The focus with them is PNF stretching, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yep.
Talking about the different styles, and there's an application for everything, but that's primarily what we did. And then I also have had my acupuncture practice since 2019 as well. The school that I went to actually no longer exists, but you could try to look it up. Tri-State College of Acupuncture. So that was in New York City. I tell people I slept in Brooklyn, but I lived in New York. So I lived in Manhattan.
Yep.
So I would go to school. I'd do all the things. I worked in Manhattan and everything like that. And then at the end of the day, I'd take a subway home, fall into bed, wake up, shower, do it all over again. So when I got back, I started just doing my own practice because it seemed the easiest way to fit it into kind of the lifestyle that I had. But my focus was on pain management and orthopedics. So I did a lot. I loved anatomy, and I loved being able to kind of like walk people through the different aspects of what they were doing and working with athletes in particular. And then that expanded more to general population. And so I've gotten exposure on both sides. It's been nice to have the access to the athletes here.
Yep.
And then outside of that, starting more on the education side of this is what an athlete needs for performance, but this is what the general population may need for pain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they both need very different needs for both populations.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. So, that's called Acupillar Performance, just to throw that one in there. But yeah, so that's been the condensed version. Outside of that, like my background in education, right, is my first master's was health, exercise, and sports science, and then second master's was the acupuncture.
Nice.
So the first one was at the Citadel. So I did the military thing at the school, but I didn't want to do any military things after the school.
Okay. Yeah. Understandable.
So as soon as I finised that, I was like, all right, we're out.
Yep.
And that's the education. That's the short version. I did a short stint with the VA, if that goes in. That was acupuncture, and that was a lot of like pain management, a lot different, almost like mindset. That came into a lot of recovery from the mental side of things, like being able to talk to people about how the mentality and other like social determinants of health can impact recovery.
Yeah. I could imagine that too, like the mindset of like dealing with an injury of like, hey, I just want to give up versus like do the work that is necessary to actually recover.
Yeah, it was surprising how much of it was just like they needed somebody to talk to, right? And they felt like they had been pushed through a system that made them a number as part of the military, and then they came out and they became another number as part of the VA,
right?
Rather than having some of the things that they needed to have addressed, listened to. And I think that's where the whole health part of Veterans Health Administration has started to try to tackle those other social determinants of health.
Yep.
And they're getting there. They're having a little bit of struggle right now as far as like funding and things to keep that going. But
that was my I don't want to get too political.
Different soapbox, different podcast.
But funding these type of things is a good thing. So like so yes, we'll leave that there.
Yeah. They're making progress. It's slowed a little bit, but I'm hopeful for what the next stages for them will be.
Good. Well, before we get into like the types of recovery, you are famous for your Sports Center highlight, so we don't want to miss that out. So you were top 10.
I think that was the top 10. That was college. So when we were going into Southern Conference Championship.
Okay.
for baseball. I was center fielder, and this is, again, short version of what I can get with this story. My coach had just moved me over into left center, for those who are familiar with the baseball field, left center, and the guy hit it to right center, and I was like, oh, no. This is a long run.
Wheels.
Yeah, it was a long run, but it ended in a double play. I caught it, and the guy who was on base, who would have scored the tying run, he was gone. Like, he was like, there's no way he's getting this ball. Yeah. Nobody else thought I was going to either. I didn't think I was going to. But after the catch, double play that ended the game, sent us to the championship, and that's what got I think the situation is more what got it to the highlight reel.
I didn't realize it was like, that's what sends you to the championship game.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick.
So,
do you have that clip saved?
I don't have it saved just to bring up on my phone.
You should
definitely. But it is easily searchable.
So you search Hughston Armstrong top 10. What number? Was it number 1 play?
I don't think it was. No.
Yeah, okay. Harley put it in there so
I don't
we can
think
see
it was
that.
number 1. It definitely wasn't number 1. There was a lot that went well. It
was a good day.
But yeah, it was still a good day. Yeah, it was great.
That's pretty cool. And then last question before we get into the recovery. When you were living in New York, best pizza place and best bagel shop.
Okay. Best pizza place, because I was close to it, was DeFara's.
Okay.
It was $5 a slice at the time, and they weren't exactly big slices either. So I was like, this better be a delicious slice of pizza.
That's expensive for a slice.
Yeah, it was. This better be a delicious slice of pizza. And the second apartment that I lived at, it was 5-minute walk maybe.
Okay.
But it was off the train every time that I came home. So easy
that's
access.
Great. Just grab and go. Yeah.
Grab a pie or grab a slice. And it was a guy who he had been making pizzas for 50 years. He looked like he wore the same shirt, the same hat, the same apron as the picture he had taken like 25, 30 years ago. And dude, the knuckles were just like, grinding out. You're like, yeah, he's been making this for 50 years. But the process was just smooth. And it was like one of those things that it was like, it's just, you're in the moment. You're like, this is his arena.
Right.
Even though it was like, it could only fit like 6 or 7 people inside the shop itself.
That's good.
Outside of the people who were working there. But DeFara's was the best pizza. And bagel shop, I lived near the first apartment I was in. I lived near what was called Terrace Bagels.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this mostly on convenience, but I would say Terrace Bagels was probably the best one that I would have. Outside of that, man, big like the carts that I would stop by on my way to work.
Random carts?
Yeah, just random food carts. A bacon, egg, and cheese on everything bagel with a $1 cup of coffee.
Yeah. Like,
couldn't find that anywhere else.
You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Sean's a New York hater, so like we had to take this opportunity to enjoy the greatness of New York. He's been like, he flew to New York. I think he got on the train and went somewhere and then went back to the airport. Yeah. Like, so he didn't experience.
No, you didn't experience.
He needs to go. I think he was at Times Square is where he went for like 10 minutes. And
also
like,
tough.
Of course, you don't want to go to Times Square. That's where you don't go. Avoid that if you haven't been in New York. Okay, let's get to the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Types of recovery. First, we're going to dive into is stretching. And then there's a couple different types of stretching that you can do, whether it can be static, dynamic, PNF. So let's dive into static stretching if you want to break down what that is for us and the applications that can be used.
So static stretching is what we often consider more so as passive stretching. This is usually where you have somebody else do the stretch for you. Because even if you're doing, let's say, like a hamstring stretch where you're sitting and you're folding over, like there's still an activation piece that has to occur there. Whereas static stretching is trying to take you out as a factor completely. So imagine you're laying on the floor, somebody lifts your leg up into the hamstring stretch. That's your static stretch. And you're usually holding that for a minimum of 30 seconds. Some will say like up to 3 minutes in order to get the range of motion benefits that you're looking to get out of a type of stretching like this. Some proponents that this does enhance, like some articles or some research will say that there is an increased recovery with this, but there's usually a high risk of bias with those research articles, and the population that they use is usually pretty limited. So if you, let's say you use somebody who's untrained versus somebody who is really trained, those effects can vary widely. And then same thing with like male versus female, you're looking at different age groups. So a lot of this comes down to what populations do they use. And you'll hear me quote this probably quite a bit as we work through all of these things, but
I was gonna say, I think there's two things I have on that. Like one, most of this stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like we are learning so much about not just recovery, but like how the human body works. Like we're constantly learning, we're constantly trying new things. That a lot of this, we may do this podcast in 5 years, and like some things we said we love, we may not love in 5 years from now. So like it's just like a learning process. And I think you got some good notes on here about like, hey, that we know this one works pretty well.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Some things we say that you may not agree with, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We're just giving our take on it. And then on the like how long to be in a static stretch, I've heard this before. I want to get get your thoughts on it, is I was always told 90 seconds. And that's when like the brain kind of quits. I guess your body is like fighting that position.
Yeah.
And that's eventually when the muscles relax and you actually get the benefits of the stretch. Is there any truth to that in your opinion?
It depends on the individual. I think some can get it faster and some it will take longer. And that is where like holding a stretch becomes a subjective thing. Is like what the person is experiencing is different than what I'm doing for you. So if you tell somebody to relax, are they actually relaxed?
Right.
I don't know. So if it says 90 seconds, this may be a population that just has a hard time relaxing. And so they notice that if we just gave them more time, then they would get the 30-second benefit because it took the first minute for them to actually figure out what is relaxed.
Right.
So we'll put it this way. 30 seconds is the time that you need to be in that static stretch, in the passive position or the passive state to achieve whatever the benefits are that they say you're going to achieve with static stretching.
Okay.
So if it takes you a minute to get to that static state, then 30 seconds after that is your start time.
Okay, so like once you get to the relaxed stage, then that's when the 30-second clock starts.
Yeah, exactly.
When you are physically stretching somebody, can you feel when that starts? Can you feel like, okay, you feel relaxed, or is it kind of?
I'm gonna say again, it's subjective, depends on the person. There are some people where you can feel like they do fight it a lot, and having worked with a lot of bodies at Stretch Lab, like there were days where I was like, wow, I really feel the changes that are occurring today. And then there are other days where I'm like, that might have been it.
Yeah.
But there's it's not a one size fits all. And again, the research was done with like physical therapists, which I'm not gonna say some have had more hands-on hands-on bodies than I have, and some have had less. So I don't know who all they pull for some of these research articles, but they'll claim, hey, more advanced practitioners can feel the changes in structure, let's say like bones if they're doing manipulations, or tissue tension if they're doing stretches. It's not reliable.
Yep.
That's the only thing, is like some people will say, all of these experts, all of these are considered experts, but they're going to have varying degrees of this is when it happened.
Correct.
This is when it happened.
Yeah.
So
they'll have their bias and their opinions on it. Yeah.
There's always bias when it comes to things like this in research. I mean, we're human, so there's always variation.
We're all going to be very different.
And when you're two humans interacting, there's going to be even more.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can imagine like muscle density and stuff like that's going to play a factor into it for sure.
Yep.
Last thing that I had on static stretching was pre-workout, post-workout.
Oh man, is there pain or isn't there pain?
Okay, let's just say average person, no pain. They're just like, they come in for a workout, and should they do static stretching before or after, or in your opinion, neither? Like a different time of day?
Yeah, I would say. So personal opinion?
Yeah, personal opinion.
Neither.
Okay.
That's just where I'd go with it. There are a lot of other things that you can get out of like a recovery, and most people, if you tell them to stretch after a workout, usually skip that part.
Okay.
So make it simple and lower the barriers. Usually stretching actually becomes a barrier, and a barrier to consistency.
Yeah.
It's not that they'll do it that day, but any other time that they were given to do it on their own, probably not.
Yeah.
So easier ways to get in that is just to tell them to like lay and elevate their legs, right? Go home, lay down on the floor, put your legs on the couch. And so you're elevating your legs. And what becomes more important for this like post session recovery is more so like the breathing, being able to bring yourself back to a more regulated or parasympathetic state, right?
Yep.
That using our first really fancy term here.
Houston loves to use big words, so buckle in.
I almost went with the whole like GTO, Golgi tendon, organ, and muscle spindle earlier when you talked about time. But
like, Google, help me out real quick.
That's right. We got the laptop for a reason. But yeah, so going to that parasympathetic or that rest and recovery state, what we know is going to be more beneficial for the actual recovery, you can do with breathing.
Okay.
So I encourage that more so, like, hey, we're just going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to set a timer, and you're not going to worry about the timer. All you're going to focus on is your breathing. And for some, we might do box breathing. For others, we might do like 1 in, 2 out. So it might be like 3 seconds in, 6 seconds out, 4, 8, and so on and so forth. That tends to be more, and I find gets better results for an individual to learn how to start managing some recovery rather than saying, hey, you need to do static stretching in order to achieve a recovery state.
Okay.
Now, if somebody has a range of motion limitation, they are going to do some static stretching.
We should look into that.
Yep, absolutely. If there is a like really big like visual you can see and you're like, that needs to move more.
Yeah.
Static stretching is going to be one of the best ways to improve range of motion. Now, that not the only way, but
that's a good way.
But it's also, static stretching is also position specific. So wherever you go, let's say somebody who wants to do splits, right? they get to the split, but that flexibility is very specific to that exercise, that stretch, right? It doesn't all of a sudden mean that you can take that split and go on 2 chairs like John-Claude Van Damme.
right. Or to go down the road on the semi trucks.
However you want to party trick it up. But that's the thing is, it's like whatever you do or however you train it, that's how you're going to be able to perform it. So if you want to be able to make it into a fancy party trick, you're gonna have to progressively work your way to that. Right.
I think the one I love for like that is when people struggle like in the bottom of a squat. Add a little load, just a light kettlebell, and just get to the bottom of the squat and hang there for 30 seconds. And like they hear me preach, like I don't want you just there, just relax. We want to be like strong in that position, chest up, in a good squat. That's the one I've seen benefits out of personally, and with watching other athletes use.
Yeah, and that one tends to fall under what we would just call isometrics. But yeah, strength training is a way to increase range of motion. And it's a really good way to increase range of motion.
We're always pro strength training.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Then let's flow into dynamic.
Looks
like you suggest here that this is better for a warm up than necessary recovery tool.
Correct. Yeah. So dynamic, similar to what you were talking about, loading, being able to just load something up. Sometimes adding a little extra load to a tissue gives you that ability to take a joint through a greater range of motion. But if you're just getting ready for something, dynamic stretching might also be referred to as mobility drills or mobility exercises, things like that. And it just means that whatever we're doing, we're moving through it, right? So if you're going to do a stretch yourself, let's say like you're sitting and you're reaching down for a hamstring stretch, or you're doing something for upper body, whether it be chest, if you're the one that's engaging in this, like it is dynamic because you're active in it. Now it might not look as active. Let's say for a chest stretch, right, or like a doorway stretch, you're stepping through, but you can make it active by trying to squeeze your shoulder blades back, right, or trying to lift your hands off the door frame.
So by active, it doesn't necessarily mean moving at that time. It means more of like resisting or pushing through. Engage. Okay,
engaged. And then that's where we start to get into this like gray line. If we want to make this a little bit, we want to give this a little bit more of like a strict here's its area. Like it is repetition based. So you are going to lunge, and that's going to be your dynamic warm up, or you're going to do a push up or some scaled back version of whatever it is you're going to be doing that day. Versus PNF, where those start to be like, oh, you have the agonist or you have the antagonist contract, and so that's where you're like, oh, I'm standing in a door frame, and I'm going to reach back, and I'm going to sink in a little bit further. And the timing is going to vary. This is going to be a fun one too. Timing variations of PNF, but dynamic is repetition based, and usually it's a little bit more continuous, a little bit more flowing.
And like in group class settings, like where I'm involved the most, that's typically what we do is we do these dynamic warm ups, and I try to do exactly what you try to say. Like, okay, we have weighted lunges today, or we have Bulgarian split squats. We're going to do some walking lunges, reverse lunges. I think you love these. I love them a lot. The 5-way lunge. Just going through those range of motions, I think those are phenomenal for a warm up too.
Absolutely. And those movements like a lunge are usually better. I'd say usually better because it is more compound than something like a good morning. Right. Good morning is going to stretch it. Like you can use that as a dynamic warm up because you can do repetitions of it. But the lunge is going to give you multiple planes of motion that you can work with. You can add a twist. You can make a lot out of something. And lunges are usually easier from I need more range of motion in this than say a good morning, because a good morning is going to be limited by there are less factors involved. Okay. Whereas a lunge could be limited by a number of things, but you can probably work on that thing based on what you feel. Right.
Even like people like struggling like a weak core, you can that'll shine during a lunge.
If they don't have if somebody likes to tightrope a lot, and they're like, it's like, all right, I'm gonna give you like train tracks cue, right? So just make sure to keep your feet a little bit wider, and let's see. And if they still have trouble with it, all right, now we need to make this a little bit more static.
Exactly.
So don't walk, just stay right there.
More of a split squat variation.
Split squat variations, exactly. So scalability of like a lunge, I love because there's so much that you can do with it. Whereas like good morning's like, well, just don't go as far.
Right, exactly. Just limit the range of motion. That makes sense. Cool, let's dive into your favorite. I'm assuming it's your favorite when it comes to stretching, PNF. First off, what does that stand for?
Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation.
There we go.
More big words. So PNF so far has probably the most evidence. It's the more researched or most researched of these types of stretching. And PNF is a contract relax style of stretching. And this is usually done with a partner, but there are also instances where I've seen it done on your own, but you really have to kind of anchor yourself in to do so. with PNF, you have a initial static hold, and by static hold in this sense, I'm just saying like you're not doing anything,
Okay.
and then you're going to have an activation piece, and then you're going to have another static hold.
Okay.
All right. So, and again, usually this is with a partner if you really want that like static contract static. The initial contraction, the initial stretch, this may go anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds, depending on which research article you want to read.
Yep.
The contract piece could be anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, again, depending on which article you want to read. And then the following hold is 30 to 60 seconds.
Okay.
And those are minimums. Again, like you could start to increase the time under tension if you want for the individual. So let's say I start somebody who's very detrained. And I had this happen a lot because a lot of people who would come into Stretch Lab, we tend to see people who haven't moved in like 10, 15, 20 years.
I can see like they're working at a desk and their back hurts. They're like, well, I can't work out, so let's go to Stretch Lab. That'll fix it. Yeah.
Yep. Bank of America was like one of our number one customers.
Nice. Yeah, smart. Yeah.
But yeah, so you'd have somebody come in significantly detrained, and if I had them push for 5-6 seconds for an entire 50, we would do 25 or 50 minute sessions. So if I had them push for 5-6 seconds for an entire 50-minute session, they would come back and they'd be like, I was so sore after the last one. And I'd be like, you probably would have been just as sore if you'd done like a Pilates class.
Right.
And it's because, one, it's something that you never do. Two, we probably overloaded you pretty quickly. And this is going to come back into the fundamentals of recovery, which is just load management, right? Periodization when it comes to just general strength and conditioning.
I was gonna say, they were basically doing strength training, and just because they were so untrained that was strength training.
That was strength training for them. Yeah. And we're doing it at end range, which even in strength training, right, we're spending time at end range, but we're not usually staying there.
No, not very long. We're trying to get out.
Yeah, you're like, all right, I've got the range of motion, and I'm back out.
Yeah, when we get program pauses and stuff.
Nobody,
3 seconds. 2 seconds is good enough.
At 3 count is usually 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So that was where they would go, and if I had them do the count, it's always shorter, right? But when I do the count, they're like, "Is that really like 3 seconds? Was that really 5 seconds?" And I was like, "Yeah."
It's like a kid in timeout. Like, I've been here. I promise I've been here
forever. I was like, "It's been 2 minutes, man."
Right, you're fine.
But yeah, so that is almost like a style of training for them, right? So that's where we have to be a little bit more careful about load management. What can this person tolerate? And so some people are going to be like 10-second hold, 3-second contract, 30-second hold. Other people I can start to take a little bit further, a little bit deeper as they go through. And this is a stretching program.
Yep.
So that is where you get more of that like muscle spindle and Golgi tendon organ. Muscle spindle being the sensory piece in the muscle, whereas the Golgi tendon organ, as it says, is in the tendon. And those just give the feedback to the brain to say, hey, this muscle needs to relax, so that we can allow for either greater range of motion, because it's either protective, it's making sure you don't move too far too fast,
right,
so that it doesn't result in an injury, or we're trying to make that happen faster. Right. A lot of things, even in strength training, is going to be neurologically driven first and then tissue adapted later.
Okay.
So stretching is the same.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's it's fun to hear like it come from you, because like I do these things, but like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The way like hearing you say it is really good.
Yeah.
You have suggestions for people on like good entry level way to do PNF for people that are not doing it. Would you say like find the end range of motion with where areas you need to stretch and like do the contrast, relax with that? Or would you suggest like start off doing it yourself so you're not, I don't know if there's a risk of injury there with someone else doing it for you. They're pushing them beyond what you're prepared for.
Yeah. Again, we come back to that feel. And so I will say that is where like time and experience, hands-on bodies makes a difference of like feeling when somebody's resisting. Because there would be individuals with Stretch Lab where I would start pushing and they're like, no, you need to go further. But their face also looks like this.
Yeah. Yeah,
right. So you're like, nah, man, like we're going to start right here because right now your body's fighting against it. Like the resistance I'm getting is pretty significant. So let's let it calm down here, and then if it can go further, we'll push a little bit further. The great thing about PNF2, at least how we did it at Stretch Lab, was simple for the person who was working. I say simple, not easy, is that you are the one who's able to kind of like pin the other structures that need to be pinned to isolate that muscle.
Yeah.
If you're doing it yourself, it's harder to do those pins. So let's say in our gym, if we were to do the setup, I'd probably have to take the like the split squat pad that we use, anchor it pretty low so that my other leg could slide underneath it and it wouldn't go up whenever I go to do a hamstring stretch myself. But I would say being able to take a static stretch and make it more active is probably a better way for people to get introduced to the contract relax aspect. So let's take a simple hip flexor stretch. I say simple hip flexor stretch,
Right.
but kneeling, right? You're in a kneeling position and you just shift your hips forward. So you feel that stretch through the quad. You feel it a little bit more through the hip flexor. What you're going to do to make that active, one of two things. One, you're going to squeeze the glute of that leg, and you're just going to feel how that increases that sensation of tension in that hip. And then the other thing would be to pull with the front leg so that you feel the tension build in your hamstring. And so you're actually building confidence. You're building the ability to hold this position better, this deeper position better, which might give you a little bit better awareness through the full range of motion.
Right.
So anytime you're at end range and you're giving yourself a little bit more work, it could contribute to you just being able to feel the movement better when you're at those non-end ranges. But that way you can kind of pull and push your way into a little bit of a deeper stretch. Or also what I would tell somebody is you're going to own that position. Right?
I
want you to own that position. And the way that you're going to own it is that we're going to have to squeeze the muscles a little bit tighter.
Yep.
And you're going to hold that for 5 seconds and then you're going to relax. And that stretch should change on a scale of 1 to 10 from a 5 to a 7 when you squeeze and then back down to a 5 when you relax. And if it goes lower than that, go deeper into the stretch.
More range of motion. Yeah. That's great. Okay, well, good. Is there anything else you want to wrap up on stretching? I think that was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That was a lot.
Not so much there. Again, I think we'll do a little general summary of this so we can go through that again. But yeah, I would say dynamic stretch, like dynamic is going to be your warm up.
Yep.
And that could be as simple as just, let's say you're going in, you're going to squat, you're going to bench, you're going to deadlift. Before you squat, you're going to squat with lighter weight. Before you bench, you're going to bench or do push-ups. Something that you just need to mimic the movements. Yeah. You just need to mimic the movements with less load.
Yep.
And that is the best way to warm up. So if somebody tells you have to do this 15 to 20 minute warm up series in order for you to do any type of workout,
right,
they're full of it.
Yeah, like unless you're dealing with a true injury, more than likely your warm up can be done in 5 to 10 minutes.
Yep.
Like it's perfectly fine.
Max 10 minutes max.
Right. I think sometimes I'm 3 minutes and I'm in and out.
Yeah. Especially like this time of year where
it's 90 degrees. We're warm. Exactly. You're good. Just go through the range of motion and you'll be good.
Yep.
Cool. Next, we're going to dive into massage.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I love a good massage. I know there's unlimited different types of massages, so we're not going to touch on all of them.
Yeah.
I think the favorite I had, just quick story.
Yeah.
Sarah and I were traveling. We were in Utah, and we were going to some of the state parks, and we were unable to do the trails we wanted to do that day because Angels Landing was closed. Someone had a heart attack. Hope they're okay. The Narrows were closed because the water was flowing too fast.
Wow.
So we found just a random woman who worked in the village, and she did massages, and so Sarah booked us each a session. Sarah goes, she's like, you're going to love it. She's like, this is right up your alley. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. So we get in there, or I get in there, and she has like straps on the ceiling, and she's like where she walks on your back. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. My back cracked like 37 times.
Yeah.
It was so good. So whatever style of massage that is, that's the one I'm a fan
of. That's the one you'll take.
But there's, then you have just like the deep tissue. You have sports massage. You have Swedish. You have hot stones. So like, what type of massage are you a fan of?
Ooh.
Or are there any that like, hey, you're not going to get many benefits, but it's going to feel good? Not to steer you in any direction.
Yeah. So I would say this is going back to a little bit of the Stretch Lab stuff, but the style that's actually the most similar to that, which is a stretching, is Thai massage. So a lot of like that PNF work could be influenced from a lot of like Thai massage foundations, and because that's usually where somebody's laying on the floor and they're taking you through different stretches, like they're holding you, but they may ask you to like engage muscles and things like that. You might hear them referred to as muscle energy techniques. Like people are going to have their system. That's what I think I've learned the most as far as like either recovery and fitness in general, is that people will take a foundational concept and then they'll add a different word in there somewhere and then all of a sudden they spin it and this is their system, right? And I get it, like building systems makes it much easier for other people, but they explain it as if like that system is the only way to make it happen.
Right. Yes.
And that's not the case.
No.
Like it's never, if somebody's speaking in extremes or they're talking down another system, there's something wrong with their system and they don't want you to look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
A little insecurity there.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to massage, for me personally, it depends on the day. Honestly, like I could walk in and I want to be able to like talk anatomy. I want to nerd out with the person that's working on me. And then there are other times where I don't want to talk at all.
Yeah.
And so on the days that I want to nerd out, I want them to like I still want to be as passive as possible. But every now and then I want them to be like, hey, we're just going to work on this range of motion. And usually for me, that's like pecs, shoulders, upper traps. Occasionally hip rotation. But on the days that I'm just like, I'm just going to lay here. And that is usually just like a simple deep tissue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need anything fancy. I don't need somebody to walk on my back.
Dude, it was great. I'm telling you, it's so
good. But I hear it's great, right? I hear it is fantastic.
And also, like, if you don't enjoy that, don't do that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Nobody says you have to do this.
We have a long list of different modalities. Like, if you don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah, I could run through this, and even the style. So what I did in school is considered body work rather than massage, and I think that's again a licensing thing.
Yep.
But I did Tui Na, which is Chinese for push pull.
Okay.
Which just means like whatever movements that you're doing, it typically involves a push and a pull. And you can do this along fibers, or you can do it cross fiber. And what that means is whatever direction the muscle itself tends to go. So let's take a hamstring, right? Hamstrings tend to run up and down, not side to side.
Right.
If you're going to do with the muscle, you're going to roll up and down the leg, and that's going to be your push pull. Or if you're going to do something that's cross fiber, you're going to push across the back of the leg. So that would be Tui Na. We also had a more gentle approach, which was called Ama, and Ama tended to do a lot more. So there is a deep tissue version of it, but what we tended to do was a little bit more surface level, and it involved more circular motion. So it's kind of like longitudinal or with the fiber as well as cross fiber. Now, there will be different claims for different techniques as to what they do. And all of those are, again, there's a spectrum there. I will say this, and I'll repeat it for foam rolling. But they are not releasing knots. They are not.
That was my next question. You knew I was going.
They are not releasing knots. They are not changing your fascia because the mechanical tension required to actually make those changes is massive. Like we've seen tendons, we've seen like fascial integrity with the ability to like tow a car.
Right.
And
so the force it would take, the
amount of force the person is just
what if
not
they're
going to be
standing
able
on
to
your
do
back?
it. I mean, depending on, is Kane standing on your back? Possible at that point, but maybe probably not. That would take a lot, and I would gander to say there's a lot of other risks before you get you get the
something else
change.
is going to break.
It takes a ton of force, and we just can't generate that force.
With massage, any type, is the main goal to like promote blood flow to that area? Is that like what their main goal is?
I think that's what a lot of tissue manipulation is it's just trying to bring blood flow to the area. It's trying to bring awareness to the area. So if you apply mechanical tension, and again, same thing applies with foam rolling. If you apply mechanical tension, that's going to give a sensory feedback that says, hey, there's more pressure or there's more happening in this area than normal. And that is going to say something needs to change.
Right.
And that could be I'll come back to that side tangent. And so when our brain says, oh, something needs to change, it usually is saying, oh, well, this is okay if we are able to survive this. Kind of like a general idea of the stress response. You introduce a new stimulus, our body goes into alarm, like, is this okay? And so it may decrease in quote unquote performance a little bit. And then it's like, oh, yeah, this is fine. We also might need to be ready for this to happen again. And so then it's going to pop back up and say, yeah, we can handle a little bit more. And so it's that accommodation or our body's ability to adapt.
That's the exact word I was looking for, adapt there.
Body's ability to adapt. So the side tangent that I was going on, there are techniques that look at like lymphatic drainage. And now this is getting a little bit more so into like the clinical medical side of things rather than just what somebody's probably going for their general massage. And like clearing of maybe, let's say somebody's got a bruise. Now, again, the pressure that it takes and the amount of work that it takes is more than probably what you're usually getting in a normal massage. So if somebody has a contusion, fancy word for a bruise, if somebody's got blood under the skin, right, and you see the discoloration, and athletic trainers can come in with their hands, they can come in with tools, and they can work on it. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you can definitely see that there is change. And I've seen that too. I've seen it more so for sprained ankles. That's probably what I've seen the biggest change with what I've worked with personally is being able to get somebody after that initial 48 hours, that inflammation response, and there's significant swelling, and just going through like it is monotonous,
just the same,
and boring.
Yeah.
Probably for both the patient and the practitioner, but it works as long as you're willing to spend the time on it. So that's what I've seen as far as like massage. If you're gonna like specialize in some of those areas, that it is possible to make change. It just takes a lot of work.
Yeah. I love a good massage, and there's different outcomes you can get, I guess, and what you're looking for too. If like, hey, if you want to leave relaxed, like the best massages I've had outside of the one in Utah, I did not necessarily leave like relaxed. It was like, I was put through work there. Like that felt like I'm dehydrated. I need to go drink a shit ton of water. I need to go rest because like I felt like I was put through the ringer there. And I love that. Like, and that usually falls more into that body work category that you talked about. Where it's just not a relaxing experience. It's like, hey, you have some things we're trying to work through, and it's not always going to be comfortable.
And if, as far as general recommendation goes for massage, it's as frequently as you want it. Right.
They're expensive as long as you can afford it too.
It's like if you find a way, and this is like where athletes again can benefit, especially like at the collegiate level now, where you have better and better educated practitioners, athletic trainers, physical therapists now are getting into it a little bit more, where if they run their private practice, then they can do the things that they want, and some of them love manual therapies. And so you can go in and you get something that's targeted, right? So you're going to have your hamstrings and your calves worked on every week. Great. Do it. If that's a part of your routine and it feels good and you notice performance improvements, do that thing. Yes, do that thing.
If it's working for you, don't stop it.
Right. And if anybody tells you any differently, then again, they're full of it.
100%. Even if we say we don't like it and it's working for you, keep doing it.
That's right. Go for it. So that's massage.
Okay, and then the next one that kind of leads right off of that is massaging yourself, foam rolling.
Foam rolling. If you're all right with it, I'm gonna lump in like the percussive massage, so like the
go for it.
Therapy guns, or massage guns, and all of that is again more of sensory feedback than it is actual like change. We used to I did a lot with Hypervolt, and then like Hypervolt and what's the other big one?
Theragun.
There you go. Those two were like all over the place, and then we had a bunch of these like knockoffs, and they're like, oh, ours is better than this one because it operates at this frequency.
The frequency.
And like I see where they're trying to make the argument is like, if there's a higher frequency, then those vibrations are going to carry lower. And I'm like, but there's only so far that this can go before you're just, again, beating yourself up. And pressure that you can apply. So I would put this in the realm of, again, it's not actually making any tissue change. There are some risks, like if you have a pacemaker or something like that, probably best not to do your pecs right over that pacemaker.
Please don't.
And so making sure that if you have any, let's say like vestibular problems, balance, inner ear, whatever it may be that's causing you something, those probably aren't the best tools to use as well. And part of that could be how people might hold their breath when they go through it. Like you see lots of fun faces when people are like, oh, I'm going to roll out my quads. And like,
it
okay.
Just so painful.
They make it look so, and it's not meant to be along those lines. Again, I think the intention is more so that it should be a pleasant experience. It might be mildly uncomfortable, but you should always be able to breathe through it. If you find yourself like gritting your teeth, holding your breath, there's a different intent. There's a time and a place for that. And it's not necessarily the recovery piece.
If your recovery is like you're in pain.
That's not recovery.
That's not recovery.
Not recovery. So that's where I'd say, like, if somebody's looking for performance versus pain improvement, there's a different way to approach it. So performance and recovery, you're probably looking at being a little bit more gentle with yourself on this. If pain is an issue, like pain injury, then you might have to get a little bit more uncomfortable before that starts to get better.
So there are like still the same places are the opportunities to use the foam rollers and Theraguns if you do like them and you feel okay with them afterwards.
Absolutely.
Like I have a Theragun and a foam roller, but I guess in my opinion is I haven't seen enough benefit to where it's like, hey, I'm doing that daily. And some people do it daily because they see those benefits, and that's okay. Just for me, they have not been the most significant for me.
I come back to the pain versus performance. For those who are in pain, they see more benefit than those who are looking for performance improvement. So if you have pain in a particular area, using those things, actually the best system I have found for these individuals is using above and below. So let's say you have hip issues, use it gently on your low back, use it gently on like your quads, maybe a little bit of the hamstrings, and then if you want to go to the hips, so if you want to do the glutes, by all means go for it. Again, time-wise, you're spending maybe 60 seconds on an area, and then moving on.
That's a good point you brought up too with the above and below too, because usually like say you talk about the hip, it's not always the hip that's the issue. It might be something that's connected to the hip that is causing the hip to hurt.
Yep.
So working above and below is a good way to attack what actually is causing the issue.
Yep. So good principle that we snuck in there.
Yeah, that's
right?
good. That's well done.
Pay attention to above and below.
Okay, I think this is our last kind of mechanism when it comes to doing compression.
Okay.
Those are forms of compression we used, right?
Yeah.
So
Short term, very short term versus long term.
So we're gonna go to like the compression boots. I have a pair at home, and I do love these. I'm curious to hear what you say about these.
Yeah.
Like when I was training for the marathon, I would love to like get on the couch and just put those bad boys on.
Yeah.
Are you wearing? No. Sometimes Harley is wearing the boots when we're doing this. Yeah, so she loves them. Like I love them. So I'm curious to hear what you got to say about boots.
So I think it's a broader form of almost like massage, right? You have an encapsulating piece rather than just like, all right, I can only push on one part at a time. And if we look at, I'm going to use this with like blood flow restriction training. So if you have a certain amount of time that an area is occluded, then you're going to have some pooling of blood, and that can enhance some like transfer of materials. So we'll say whatever is in the blood of this. So maybe it's oxygen, maybe it's getting carbon dioxide, maybe it is an exchange of this was material that was broken down and needs to be pulled out.
Yep.
So there may be some benefits in that regard. I think now we are seeing a little bit higher evidence that like trends one way, saying that it is beneficial depending on how it's used. Coming back to specific protocols, I can't remember off the top of my head which ones they're like, these for sure, you know, are pretty good and safe. But
I would just lay on the couch, like put a movie on.
And let it go.
I think mine were set at maybe 30 minutes. They'd cut off. I'd go through like three rotations of that, and like you take them off, and like your leg is just like has the imprint. It's just like, oh my god, it felt so good.
So you wore leggings, but in a different manner.
Yeah, 100%.
But it comes back to like if it feels better, like if you feel better with it,
right,
do it.
Yep.
Right. Out of all of these things so far, as far as things you could use consistently and that we've noticed makes maybe an impact on like day-to-day training, compression boots are probably the highest so far. I only say that because I don't think people use stretching appropriately. They could. I think we could see bigger benefits if we had, let's say, a team of people who could do PNF stretching on a number of athletes at a time. But the volume that we would have to do in order to accommodate everybody, that's just a lot.
Yeah, and I've tried to use PNF like in classes and stuff, like the end when we're doing our cool down stretch.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the like, I don't know if I trust Jim to stretch Jill,
right?
And they've never met before, and the last thing I want is Jill to get injured because
he pushes too far, too fast.
Yeah. So it's just like I've used it before, but sometimes I get nervous about like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so
I think it's one of those things where, and this may be more so kind of like a business talk, but it's like, how do you introduce workshops like this so that people can get a feel for, hey, what would this feel like? What should this feel like?
Exactly.
And they just get time, right? Time under tension. So you're like, all right, we're going to focus on lower body. So you're going to go through all of the anatomy, physiology that you need to cover like safety things, precautions. That way you cover any red flags. It's like the CYA discussion, right? Yeah. After the CYA discussion, then you go into and you do as much practical as you can. You're like, all right, we're going to spend 5 minutes. You're going to work together for the first 5 minutes. You're on the floor, you're standing, and then switch. And then after that, we're switching to new people.
So another certificate to go get.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's all it is. I could, I just like think of all the different certificates that I was I'm going to do this one and then that one and then that. And as I've gone through it, I'm like, here are the principles. Again, coming back to it's just the principles, right? And they put a different system around it. And if that's their system, great. Like it works for practitioners to have a system. I just like my system better.
Yeah, that's kind of funny you said that because like I already said what my system is, and I'm kind of like I teased it a little bit, but at the end I want to see what you think about it. When I say like, hey, all of these things, this is what we're trying to do, but I'm gonna save that for the end.
Okay. All right.
So I think we're gonna go in. Yeah, a little teaser there. We're gonna go into like the new hot one, the new one, the trendy one. Some people think it's just bullshit, to be frank. Some people think it's the best thing in the world. So sauna, cold plunge, contrast therapy.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Let's go.
So I know like I said, some people love it, some people hate it.
Yeah.
The article I see the most is like that's been going around the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Is that it's killing your gains to do a cold plunge. The study, basically what that study shows is that any hypertrophy, if that's your goal is hypertrophy at the moment, is being reduced by doing your workout and immediately getting in a cold plunge.
Yeah.
And I do think that is correct. And teaser again, I think cold plunges are very good. I just don't think doing them immediately after a workout are good.
Yeah.
I do think you are going to reduce some of the benefits of your workout if you go immediately into a cold plunge.
Yep.
So let's break this down piece by piece. Let's go. Let's do the less controversial one first. Let's go sauna.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah. So based on what we see, heat is better than ice as far as recovery goes. That just, if we were comparing the two, heat better than ice.
Yep.
And there are a number of reasons you could say this. A lot of times it could also come down to like user error. So if somebody is like, oh, ice is good for me, and they go home and they ice for 30 minutes, you're like, oh,
right, yeah.
Probably shouldn't have done that. But if we're, again, looking at injury, so pain versus performance, if you look at injury in that first 48 hours, there's a big inflammation response. So let's take a sprained ankle, right?
Yep.
Sprained ankle, you see the swelling, you see the bruising. What do you do? And before we had the old rice adage, right?
Rice, ice, compress, elevate.
Rest, ice, compress, and
right. What did I
elevate.
say first?
Rice.
I said rice.
Rice,
wow.
ice.
Goodness.
Rice, ice. so rest, ice, compress, elevate. And in a sense, that was like, yeah, I get what you could mean on that, but rest was taken to mean like don't do anything.
Yeah.
Ice was taken too far. You were icing too long. Compression, still a good idea. Like we look at the compression boots, but it's like, how much do I compress? Like, and then there's people who study this way more than I do, but there's different millimeters of mercury, or there's different pressure compression socks and things out there. And so it's like, well, how much do I compress?
Right.
And then elevate is a good thing, but elevate usually works better in conjunction with a couple other things.
I think the guy that invented rice, he even said that rice is the way to go. Yeah, he's like, that's the way to go. I think rice was great for reducing swelling.
Yes.
It's not great for actually recovery. Yeah.
Yep. So the first instance that I got of this was actually with basketball players, because that's where a ton of these ankle injuries were occurring. And what they were noticing was that rice was actually taking them a longer time to feel confident in their return to play, versus as soon as that initial inflammation period was over, they switched to like a combination of ice and heat and movement, or ice and movement. So if the swelling was enough that it was impeding them being able to move. So let's say, again, the swelling is so much, there's a bunch of material that's in there. And so your brain says, well, this is really full right now. Why would I move?
Yeah.
Or any movement is going to push more on those nociceptors or pain.
They feel
nerves.
pain until they stop.
Right. So it limits their ability to move. So two things: if you put ice on long enough, right, it becomes numb. Two, it can also help with some of the vasoconstriction. That constriction, that vascular constriction, is going to make things a little bit smaller. So now there's less that's pushing on one another at that moment. And so now you can have them start to do those movements. And it's usually open chain, which means like their foot's not on the floor.
Yeah.
This is where they're doing like ankle circles or writing their ABCs with their foot kind of thing. So you're introducing movement as soon as possible. And then as soon as they can weight bear, now you're starting to weight bear, and everything is gradually loaded. Just like we do in a normal program, you take the same principle of load management and periodization, and you're just taking that into a rehabilitation space. And so now a better idea is like ice to reduce swelling so that you can start moving faster, compress and elevate, and then add heat if you feel like you need more blood flow needs to kind of like circulate in and out to keep that process going. So that's where things have shifted a little bit more, which is why I say heat is better than ice. Right. So sauna over ice bath.
So when you're in a sauna, red light, or you want like we're pouring the water, the steam. What do you prefer there?
Oh man. So for me personally, I like a steam sauna.
Me too. That's what I love.
Yeah, I just like
they get hotter. I don't know if it's any better, but like we're talking 210 versus 170.
Yeah, 170, 180, 185 ish. But yeah, so like infrared has. I'm gonna say that to me it feels almost like ethereal.
Yeah, because like it may turn out that it's all really true, but it's just like, oh yeah, the red light goes through and it breaks down because even like they sell like, oh, you'll have less cellulite by doing this. Yeah, and I'm like, that seems so crazy, but okay, if it worked in 10 years, we're like, oh, it actually did work. Cool.
Yeah. I'll branch into some other like a couple of things, and I'll try to make this real quick. But so we look at surface level type deal, things like that with dermatology, and so red light therapy does show like an ability to improve like wrinkles and like different skin conditions.
That's why I look so young.
That's right, red light therapy, but you have to do it every day. And as soon as you stop, like things start to come back. So it is something that's like when people are like, oh, well, I have to do this the rest of my life, and you're like, if this is what you want, yeah. And now from like the acupuncture side of things, we have an acupuncturist actually is two Chinese characters. The first one is the needling piece, and the second is what's called moxibustion. And we take a plant called mugwort, and there's like a floss that comes off of this plant. And when you burn that plant, it's said to burn at a frequency that is similar to infrared, which is like this healing frequency that our cells recognize.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm like, this is a great theory. Like, thanks for sharing
an
that.
old Chinese proverb.
Yeah, but I need to see more evidence.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen any research that like dives into, what is the actual frequency that this burns at, and do our cells actually respond to this? And now you're gonna have to go through the levels of, all right, this is what we see in vitro, this is what we see in animal studies, and now we need to get to human studies. It's relatively safe, so I feel like it could get to human studies pretty quickly.
Yep.
But I haven't seen it yet. So all that to say, like, that's the theory. You know, infrared is
to be determined.
Yeah, infrared is supposed to be something similar, where it's like, it works at the frequency that your cells regenerate, and so that's why your cells all of a sudden heal faster.
That makes sense. It makes sense in theory.
Yeah,
if it actually works.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, in theory, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the evidence. But if infrared feels better for you, do infrared. If steam feels better, do steam.
Yeah.
I'm a steam fan.
Yeah. Okay. How long are you spending in a sauna?
I don't spend any more than 15 minutes at a time. But I could do up to like 3 sessions of that. But I'm taking at least 5 to 10 minutes in between those.
Cool.
And that's me personally. Now, if there are other contraindications, again, you like pregnancy, or
some people just can't handle that heat for that long.
Blood pressure. If you're taking any medications, this is always like the CYA, right? Check with your doctor before you before you do any.
You don't just go jump into a 200-degree sauna for 15 minutes.
Do not recommend. 10 out of 10. But yeah, so when doing that, while 15 minutes is my max, my most common is probably 10 to 12.
Okay.
And if I'm doing something for pain and I guess we'll get into the contrast stuff a little bit later, but if somebody needs to ice, let's say again there's some inflammation, like visible inflammation, either redness or swelling, I will have them ice for somewhere around like 8 to 10, and it's very specific to that. And then you can get in a sauna, which is very like overall systemic, right? Your whole body is in the heat rather than just applying a heat pad on there. So it might be something along those lines, and that would be how I would combine some heat and ice therapies. But my ice therapy is usually shorter than the heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then let's go into cold plunges.
Yeah.
You a fan? You like them? Love them? Hate them? Think they're silly?
I think they have a time and a place.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they have a time. I think the oh man. Well, let's start with let's start with the science side of it. So the cold plunges, like you mentioned earlier, we see that there is like a hypertrophy limit or limitation with it. So if you're doing this right after your training, you're not going to get the biggest bang for your buck. Now, if hypertrophy is not your goal, they're still looking at like how much is let's say like the fancy thing here now is like mTOR signaling, and that's like telling the other cells like, hey, we do need to push a little bit more towards recovery. We do need to do a little bit more of this like protein synthesis. So all of this like injury or not like muscle damage to recovery. As far as what exactly it's telling us in strength gains, that may be a little bit different. Yeah. Now, if you're limiting your hypertrophy, sure, you could be limiting your strength gains, but is it as much as just like not getting as much hypertrophy? Okay. Now, for a weight class athlete, let's think about this. If they are at their limit and they need strength gains, but they don't need more muscle growth, that could be beneficial.
Right.
Again, untested theory, but that's
I like how you're saying that. That makes sense.
That's my thought. Is like if I don't need massive strength gains, but I do need strength gains, and I don't need a lot more mass put on, then cold plunge might benefit me. This is also more like seasonal. Like cold plunges in the summer may be less effective. Like unless you're indoors and you're in a very controlled environment, but I know like some people would just put ice in a bucket outside.
Right.
How long does the temperature of that water actually stay where you need it to be to get the effect that they claim it does?
Luckily, we have a 500-pound ice machine now, so
now you just keep loading ice in there.
So we did ice baths yesterday. We went through 500 pounds of ice.
Holy smokes!
For an hour and a half because it's 90 degrees out and it all melted.
Yeah,
like it was.
So that's what I'm saying. Like
we got it down to like 50 degrees, but like it was.
I think the recommendation is between 50 and 59.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then as far as like heat in the contrast side of things is 100 to 110.
Okay.
I think for like the contrast water therapy, CWT, versus CWI, contrast water immersion.
Immersion. Yep.
Yeah. So you'll see different acronyms that are out there. And so again, a lot of it is comes with a high risk of bias. And then the other side of it comes with very limited population that you're working with.
Yep.
So it just, we don't have enough.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still new. Then, okay, this one, you won't hurt my feelings. I'm a fan of it. Contrast therapy. Like, I love, like, there's a tons of business opening now where you can go. This is my protocol when I go. I do 20 minutes in the sauna.
Yep.
I do 3 minutes in the cold plunge.
Okay.
And then I do 5 minutes of just room temperature to let my body warm back up.
Okay.
3 rounds of that.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I do it on non-training days. I do it on my full rest days. That's when I like to do it. And one big benefit, which would lead into our next thing after I hear what you have to say about it, is I sleep so good that night. I sleep amazingly. And that's why I always want to end on the cold, is that like my core temperature is low, or lower, and that's when you sleep, your body temperature does go down. So thoughts on contrast therapy, what you got?
So as far as, again, other effects, minimal, like conflicting, right? But this is recovery, and a pillar of recovery is sleep. Yeah. And so if you're sleeping better, you're doing this on non-training days. I don't know how much of it is like you're losing gains because of cold exposure, but you're getting gains back because you're improved sleep. And so now you're able to train more effectively the next day, right? So, and you're doing these on non-training days. And again, let's look at how close to the workout. So we could look at this from like training session standpoint. If you have multiple training sessions in a day, the recommendation is to keep them 6 hours apart. So let's say you train in the morning at 6:30, and then by the time you're off of work, you're going to go do this series. This is almost not 12 hours, but close to 12 hours later. And if you're doing this after work, 12 hours later, is that the same thing as if I were to do 2 workouts in a day? Like that, my body at that point has already made adjustments. Exactly. And so whatever it was that I was going to, whatever processes were going to occur, they've already started. They've already happened, right? How much would I minimize that by doing something that much time, that much separation? So again, more information is needed. Do I like them? Yeah, sometimes. I like it more so for an experience. Yeah, and that's another part of it too, is like the mental benefits you get of doing it. Like the place me and Sarah like to go to, we were able to do it together. Yeah. So like, we're in the sauna together, we're in the cold plunge. It's like we're doing something challenging together when you're doing that 3 minutes or 1 minute in the cold plunge. Recommendation for you up in New York, a place called Bath House. I think you've told me about it, or someone else has told me about this. I've heard it's amazing. Possibly, yeah. It was great. Great experience. Similar idea where like we went into the cold plunge, and again, this was me and Amanda. We went in, spent I think we did 2 minutes. I don't think we did 3. It was also, dude, it was cold. Yeah. Like some of the places, they'll have like 35 degrees. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this one was less than 50. I was like, I have done a lot of like ice baths for injuries on ankles and things like that for me personally. And so like when it gets down to 50, 59, I'm like, that's cold enough. And then, this was like, I got in and it was sharp. And I was like, oh, we're going to be here for 60 seconds to start. And then eventually, at most. And then there was like, there's always the crazy guys who go in and they have gloves, and then the hat, and he has his beanie on. And I'm like, do you have your membership just to like come and sit in here and like this is your training? Yeah. And again, to that point is like mental benefits. Where I think again they get these benefits is a control of breathing. For sure. I don't always know if the benefits themselves come from the cold exposure or from the fact that they have to be mentally aware and cognizant of how they breathe, how to regulate your system. And there was the big Wim Hof. The Iceman. And I climbed Everest in like his underwear. He was in. I think they gave him a hat, gloves, shorts, and boots. And that's what he climbed Everest, or like whatever the level was. He does like a hike every year, and I think it's Kilimanjaro. I don't think he does Everest every year, but he does. One of those, like, it is a higher elevation mountain, but he does it with a group. And they spend like 2 weeks. So like for the first 10 days, they're just acclimating. They're just acclimating, and he's taking them through all these breathing drills, like hyperventilation, like and hypoxic conditions. So they're really focused on breathing and just being able to work their way through discomfort. And then they go on this hike, and he's like, you're going to be able to endure this cold exposure. because mentally, like, you're prepared to endure something challenging.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it comes from too, is like there's a mindset component, right?
Sure.
When it comes
like,
to
when
cold.
you're in there, the only thing you can think about is breathing and like, hey, how fast is that clock going?
Yeah. Or how slow.
My first experience, I don't know if it was my first, but me and Watson would do cold plunges together.
Yep.
And we would sit there and try to ask each other challenging questions, like deep meaning questions, like,
man.
what is the meaning of life? And like, you're just sitting there in a 30 degree.
No,
like, I don't know, man. I can't talk about it right now.
Great. I want a hamburger. I don't know.
And I do think my favorite cold plunge experience was Harley picked one. I think it was in Arizona where she picked this place that we went to. And we're all was that finals? The whole finals team is in there. And some of your family was with us too, right? Popsy was there. And some guy like walks in and is like, hey, y'all want empanadas? And the lady was working, she goes, nah, these white people don't want no empanadas. I was like, hold on, I want some empanadas. What's up?
What kind you got?
It
I mean,
was
I
so
need to know what's
funny.
coming here. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah. You want some empanadas?
That was a unique experience.
Yeah.
But that was funny.
Very good. I wouldn't say I can't say classic Arizona because I don't know enough about Arizona, but
it
I'm
was
like,
so funny.
when I.
It was pretty classic.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if I was just going to tell the story, I would say classic Arizona,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it was or not. But
So,
yeah, I
like-
don't know if I actually answered your question.
I think like you did, and I think it's just like again, it goes back to if you enjoy it,
Yeah.
you feeling benefits out of it,
Yep.
then do it. And then like if you don't like being cold, then maybe
Yeah.
that's not for you. Maybe just sauna is. If you don't
Yeah.
like being hot, this floating broom here. If you don't like being hot, maybe don't do a sauna.
Yeah.
That's other modalities.
I will say too. So there are some issues with. There's always issues with the studies or limitation. We'll call it limitations, right? And maybe not necessarily issues, but limitations. So if your limitation is you've only tested this immediately after a workout, that's a limitation. Like what is our time limit here to potential gains or loss of gains? The next one would also be the amount of time, like the protocol. We'll put it that way. How long are you exposing yourselves to each of these things? So 1 minute versus 2 versus 3 for cold,
So
and then
many
10,
variabilities.
15, 20. So a lot of factors, and how do we continue to test? We just need to continue to test more of those.
Keep testing.
And they need to be repeated. So, to do it one off and to do it with 15 to 20 participants. Okay.
I think the part that sucks about it too is the way news is now. Everything has to be so
Grabs the
clickbaity.
headline.
Exactly, and so that's why they do the article of like, is ice bath killing your gains?
Yeah.
Because they're so popular right now. Everyone that's doing it is going to click on that article, and they're making more money.
Yep.
So like, we still to be determined if it actually is killing your gains or not.
Yeah.
I do think it is if you're only doing it after your workout.
Right.
But if you're doing it 12 hours after or the next day,
12 plus,
it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, I don't think it is. And again, anecdotal, but I would also I would lean in to say be careful of headlines, but you can also be careful of the actual title of the research paper, and don't just read the abstract. If you don't know how to interpret research, don't trust that the abstract is telling you all of the information that you need.
Right, because it's not.
It's meant to be a summary, but there's so much nuance that goes to that summary.
They're not fun reads.
No, they're not. So ask me. I'll go read it and I'll tell you.
You'll enjoy reading it, and then you can break it down for them.
Maybe. I do know I have a limit of things that I enjoy reading as far as research goes, but I not just learned, but when I learned that you could set filters on PubMed for notifications, I was like, this is amazing. So now anytime that
Such a nerd. I love it.
anytime that an article comes up with a certain topic, I'm like, I get a ping and I'm like, all right, now it's time, to read this one. Here we go. Yeah. So I know I get to read the things that I enjoy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
These last two we're gonna do. These are we consider these pillars. These two you have to do. These are there's no debate on these last two.
Which means this is really easy for us to go through and just talk about.
So sleep.
Sleep, number one, needed. Needed. Absolutely needed. I'll go through. So for adults, 7 to 9 hours, sometimes more. There are some adults who probably need 10 hours, but it varies. So if we were looking at sleep needs 7 to 9 hours, and so anybody who's like, oh no, I'm fine on 5, chronically you are losing cognitive performance. You are increasing your risk for a cardiovascular event, for respiratory issues. This is also going to be something that affects hunger. So things like leptin and ghrelin, the fancy hormone terms there, for as far as what your body is telling you need to eat. That's all going to be impacted if you have less sleep on a chronic. Now, that's not to say that there's never an outlier. but almost always.
Yeah, you need
almost
you need
always.
sleep.
Yep.
And like one thing I really try to suggest is try to have like 2 days a week, the weekends, where you don't set an alarm.
Yeah.
Like just like I know if you have kids, you have I know that's very very challenging to do.
Different alarm.
Right, exactly. But if you're able to just like sleep until your body says, "Hey, I need to get up."
Yep.
And then second, you can't make up sleep. You can't be like, "Oh, I only
Yeah.
slept 4 hours all week." Like, yes, I want you to sleep as much as you can these next days. You're not making that time up.
Right,
Like, it's
exactly.
gone. It's in the past.
Yeah.
It sucked. Let's try to fix it.
I think that's a mindset thing that people are, and it comes to the whole health and wellness industry where it's like, oh, you can just make up for it here.
Yeah.
It's like, don't try to make up for it. Like, you had a day, now get back to whatever it is you need to be consistent with.
Yep.
And in this case, for sleep, it's 7 to 9 hours. We'll talk real quick about non-REM and REM sleep. So,
Yeah, go for that.
Non-REM sleep comes in 3 stages, and that's usually where your body is going into that drop in blood pressure, heart rate. And then REM sleep is where your brain actually gets more active. Your body does essentially go limp so that you don't act out your dreams. But the heart rate and everything starts to come back up. So the REM sleep is when you're getting ready to wake back up. And then, so we actually want to see like quality non-REM sleep and then a quality wake up rather than just going from non-REM to waking up.
That's the alarm clock.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so because, to your point, we have these circadian clocks, everybody's circadian rhythm or circadian clock is a little different. And there are multiple things that go into that. But if we were looking at kind of like those key pieces, as far as like sleep hygiene, I had these like set because I wanted to be able to refer to this. Is one, keep a regular schedule.
Yep.
So even if that means you have to push your bedtime back a little bit, or up a little bit. I know you don't want to, but you need to.
Yep. I know you want to watch the new episode. What is everyone watching now? Love is Island or something?
Love Island. Love is Land. Love is Land.
I haven't seen that episode. Like, you can watch it tomorrow. It'll still be there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of all these streaming platforms that we have now. Alcohol and caffeine need to be moderated. Like, some people can drink a cup of coffee after their dinner as kind of like the aperitif and be fine. But there is like a genetic sensitivity to caffeine. So like some people are very sensitive. A man like my wife can't have any caffeine after, well, let's call it 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Probably more like 12. Otherwise, she's like, I'm just sitting in bed at 2 a.m. What's happening? Meanwhile, I had that cup of coffee after dessert, and I was like, and I'm out. Yeah, I'm out.
What is it called? What is it called? The ice cream and the coffee. What is that dessert called?
Affogato.
Have you seen the gas station affogato?
No.
So you get gas station coffee and an ice cream sandwich and just dip it in the coffee. It looks so good. I need one.
All right. Might be worth a try here.
I'm going to 7-Eleven right now.
I wish the 7-Elevens were as good as Tokyo's.
I could imagine.
Yeah, Tokyo's 7-Elevens were dope.
Guarantee it.
So
Back to sleep.
other things, back to sleep. Do a brain dump. So even if you don't think you have a bunch of thoughts running through your head, you probably do.
Get it out, yeah.
And if you, we'll put it this way too. If you get in bed and you're not tired, get out of bed. Go to a different room. Go to a different spot in your room. If you only have like a studio apartment, right? But go to a different space, because what your body's trying to associate is like, when I'm in bed, this is when I sleep, right? I'm tired and I sleep. But if you get in bed and you ruminate on thoughts and you just kind of sit there and you're scrolling on your phone, 2 things are happening there. One, light exposure. So the circadian clock is like, wait, is it time to go to bed? Yeah. Is it actually time to go to sleep? I don't know. And the other thing is that you are still ruminating on those thoughts. So go somewhere else. Write it down, type it down, however you want to do it, but just get those brain dump. And then if you need to come back to it tomorrow, come back to it. I know somebody who they would brain dump and then they'd throw the paper away. They didn't care.
I just needed it out of my head.
Yeah. They just needed to take it out of their brain, and then they crumple it up and they threw it away and they're like, now I'm good. And they would go and sleep. You could do other things. You could do some static stretching. Again, I think more important is being able to focus on calming your breathing down. And from an exercise standpoint, like being able to move regularly, we'll say like you're not necessarily training, but being able to move regularly, whether that's going for walks, whether that is doing some body weight stuff, whether that is stretching, PNF stretching, where you're getting some resistance, doing that regularly. Again, having a schedule is going to tell your body when we maybe need to put a little bit more into that and keep you on that schedule. Darkness and temperature. So these are a couple other things. So if you don't have
68 and blacked out curtains. Let's go.
So there's a range, right? Some people will say 65 to 69. Other people will say 60 to 69. Right? That's the range for the temperature of the room. So this is a choose your own adventure kind of thing. And then blackout curtains, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that helps because we have so many things around us now that produce light.
Yeah, we have like a street light right outside of our so we have blackout curtains for that.
So
we also have a train about 20 feet from our house. There ain't nothing I can do
noise,
about that.
Maybe white noise.
It does not. That house shakes when it comes by.
Oh man, that's a vibration. So like now you've got a percussive therapy that way.
Yeah, we got something.
So those are all the things to make sure that you do at night and during the day. Like get outside, even if it's like you do it early in the morning, you do a 10-15 minute walk, or you do it right after dinner, 10-15 minute walk. But just get outside.
I heard like to your point. I heard like make your bedroom like a safe space. Like this is where sleep is. Don't take your computer to work. Don't take your phone to watch YouTube. Like when you go to bed, go to bed.
Yep, that's it.
Do all the other bullshit somewhere else.
Right.
Cool.
Correct.
All right, last one, and then we're about to. We've been going today. Nutrition. This is the last one we got that under our control that you can do. What you got for us? Eat lots of protein.
Yeah, as much as you can. only that. That's it.
1 gram per pound.
1 gram per. Or sorry, 1.6. I'm going to do this in kilograms. 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram body weight. And I'll give you an example at the end here. I'll use mine. I was a little lenient with my body weight too. It was easier for math.
Round down.
If somebody is looking to, and this is again personal experience, this isn't for all, but if somebody is trying to be in a little bit of a caloric deficit but still perform, 3 to 5 grams per kilogram body weight, that is not the general recommendation. The general recommendation for those who are engaging in physical activity, like doing the healthy things, 5 to 7 grams per kilogram body weight for carbohydrates. And then if you're an endurance athlete, 7 to 10 for endurance athletes.
What if you're a hybrid?
If you're a hybrid athlete, you're 5 to 10. Depends on how hybrid you are.
Everyone's hybrid now.
Everyone's a hybrid athlete here. And where we really see this affect performance is in those endurance athletes. And when I say endurance athletes, this is someone who is training for a competition that lasts longer than 90 minutes, at or not longer than 90 minutes. You could go as low as 60 minutes. And we look at things like sports like soccer, right? There are repeated bouts of fast and slow, but you are moving pretty consistently. They get a break in the middle, but then they come back out, and in total, like you're like, oh, with stoppage time and all this, it's a little over 90 minutes. But those athletes can also benefit. And so you could look at this and be like, hey, if somebody is resistance training on a hot day in weightlifting, right, where you have repeated efforts and then you have a little bit of rest and then you have another high effort, and you're going back and forth for longer than 60, 90 minutes, there's an argument for having some carbohydrates, which people love. Gummy worms,
we sell candy here for that exact reason.
We have it for that reason. But what often gets, I won't say often gets missed, but when we think of this type of recovery thing, it's like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Yeah. Right? Or a pound of rehab or a ton of rehab. If you are prepared going into the training or the event, whatever it may be, this means like if you're going to eat a full meal, eat the full meal 3 to 4 hours before you train. If you are... I
had someone eat a piece of cheesecake on the way to training session 2 days ago.
Bold strategy, Cotton. How did it work out for them?
It did not work out good.
So, if you're going to do a half meal, you can get away with like a half meal 1 to 2 hours before, so it's not a full meal, but you're still getting some protein, some carbohydrates there. And then if you're less than an hour, then you're really lowering the amount. I can't remember the exact number now. I'm going to say 30.
Sounds good.
30 grams of carbohydrates. That still seems a little high, but the closer that you get, the more that could be detrimental to performance than helpful. So I always encourage people, like, if you train in the mornings, have something. Right.
Even like for me, like if I'm doing the 6:30 a.m. class, I don't eat a full bread. I'll just grab an apple and a banana. Just get some simple carbs in me.
If somebody also, if they do well with a little bit of protein and some fats in their stomach, I'll say banana with a scoop of peanut butter.
That's perfect.
But yeah, so that's usually how I'll start it at the beginning. But if you have the ability to eat before you train, eat 3 to 4 hours before, depending on how it works for you, right? And if you're somebody who competes, like, don't all of a sudden train it as you're getting ready for a competition. Don't change
then.
Don't change it going into the competition. Give yourself Just like your training cycles, give yourself 4, 8, 12 weeks to see how you respond, right? 12 weeks would be what I would typically recommend. And then let's go to like carb loading real fast, because that can have an impact on performance and recovery. So there are 2 protocols that are often seen here with carb loading. Number 1 is like you go into this super not hypoglycemic, but very low glycogen stores. So like you try to deplete as much. You go for like you go for your longest run, training run, and then you drop the amount of carbs that you eat for 3 days. I think so. Like this is an 8-day thing here. So day 1 through 4, day 1 you have this moderate carbohydrate intake, and you have your longest training day, hardest training day, and then 2, 3, and 4 are going to be low carb. Higher fat, higher protein intake, and then you're going to have a much stronger, and you're going to keep your activity up for those days.
Right.
Then you're going to have this, strong taper where you have little to no activity that you're doing 3 days before your competition, but you're just taking in carbs.
Yep.
Right. You've upped it to like 10 to 12 grams. Like you're on that upper limit of 10 to 12 grams per kilogram. Yeah. So much pasta. Then after. Then you're ready for your competition, and after your competition, of course, go back to what your regular eating
I mean, you have
is.
that like burger and beer afterwards,
Sure.
but then back to normal.
Sure, but then back to normal. Yeah. But if you're looking at just like a normal training day, go back to those numbers that we talked about before. So like 5 to 7 grams if you're somebody who just like you train, 7 to 10 if you're a more endurance athlete. If you're like ultra endurance, of course, those numbers are going to go up.
Yep.
So based on however you need to fuel during your training, and then outside of that, you're probably still within that 7 to 12 grams per kilogram for carbohydrates. Protein pretty much stays the same regardless. Some people can do a little bit lower, like 1.4. If you're doing bodybuilding, we haven't seen adverse effects as high as like 2, I think almost like 3 grams per kilogram.
Like people like doing the carnivore diet, that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's insane how high like they were testing these. Not insane. It was good science. Yeah. How high they were testing these protein intakes. But like even if you were 2 grams or 2.4, it is a lot of protein. It's a lot of protein. So 1.6, 1.8, you're in a good spot. And then from a fat standpoint, just make sure that you are keeping your saturated fats low. Mm-hmm. Right. So check your labels for if you're if you're going to check anything as far as like the fats and stuff like that, maybe check your sodium too, depending on like where you're at and your risk. But check your saturated fats, and if you're keeping it less than 10% of your like daily calories,
you're fine.
Yep, you're in a good spot. Because some people do really well to fuel more fat than carbohydrate. Yeah. So it really does come down to the individual piece. So that's why I like having a coach, a nutrition coach, or having a dietitian or a nutritionist, right? That's really really important for those nutrition specific goals. And
like the reason this like is in here is because how this helps with recovery is like, because if your body's having to process bullshit, then your body's not going to be recovering as well. So if like living in this, like obviously you're not going to be doing this 100% of the time. I like to say 80 to 90% of the time if you're doing this. Like go have the cheesecake. Just don't have it right before your workout.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Maybe have it 3 hours after.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Timing is very key when it comes to stuff like that.
And to that point, right, we have that myth of the anabolic window where you're like 30 to 60 minutes after you train, you got to have your protein. That's actually a lie, right? That's you have 5 to 6 hours. Like that window is like a barn door.
Right. Just get it in when you can.
Get it in. If you're waiting 5 to 6 hours after you work out to like eat again, right. I have a question about your schedule. Like we need to figure something else out.
I'm starving like at 30 minutes after I need something.
Yeah. So, so that's kind of where the nutrition piece goes, is that it is important to maybe talk with somebody to run those numbers. You don't have to run those numbers, but we have other ways of measuring, other ways to make sure that you hit those those foundational pieces. So if nutrition is a piece that's missing, talk with a coach, find a way to address it.
Well, that's good. Well, I'll give you my quick summary of what I think is important when it comes to recovery. Then you can do your breakdown, and then we'll wrap it up. To me, most of these things outside of the pillars of sleep and nutrition is promoting blood flow. Mm-hmm. I think that is like the biggest aspect when it comes to recovery. If you got a specific injury, or if you got just something you worked out really hard, like, hey, we did this workout Monday where literally every one of my NotaFit people have been complaining up to today their legs are still sore. So like, okay, I need to get blood flow to their legs. Like that's what I need out of them. Yeah. So any of these modalities I think are going to promote that. It's just about timing, which one you enjoy, which one does it the best for you. So blood flow I think is great. I think that's what's going to help with recovery the most.
Yep. Foundations, are they taking care of the foundations first, and then the supplemental? And you can even change it like based on season, right? What might be a little bit more comfortable. So if you think that somebody might benefit by trying some contrast therapy, maybe wait till the summer where it's a little bit more comfortable to
just like changing the diet. Don't do it 2 weeks out from a meet or competition. Yeah.
Yep. So you have that time, but make sure they understand that. Well, and we do. I think we do one of the best jobs of this is load management, right? So, talking people through periodization, and like if you're struggling to recover, you need to reduce your volume, whatever that may mean, right? That you may have to lower your weight, you may have to lower your reps,
and that's okay. It's okay to do that.
And it is totally okay to do those things. So load management is number one when it comes to recovery. Load management, and that can go towards other things in your life, right? It could be work stress, it could be relational stress. There are other determinants of health and recovery. So understand that load management is not just exercise, but that's what we focus on a lot, right?
Exactly.
Sleep, make sure that you get those foundations of sleep. 7 hours is your minimum there. So if you're routinely only sleeping 5-6, let's find those strategies to get you into better sleep there. And then of course, nutrition, make sure that you're fueling appropriately for whatever your goal may be.
I think that's great. Well, I don't think we made a single dad joke this whole hour and 20 minutes.
No.
That's pretty good.
Did you want one?
I don't have. You got one? Go end on a dad joke for us. You got one top of your head?
What do you call a scientist of soda?
Oh, I mean, I want to say Dr. Pepper. But that's not right, is it?
No, it's a physicist.
Oh, that's a good
there
one.
There we go.
That's so good. All right, well, Hughston, thank you very much. If you guys have any other questions about recovery, nutrition stuff, shoot up Hughston. We'll have him in the Instagram. He'll be tagged and all that good stuff. So
yeah.
We're out.
Yeah, thank you very much.